It's 6:04 p.m. We have a quorum and the meeting has been duly posted. Good evening and welcome to the monthly board meeting of the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. If you will you please stand and join us for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. The following trustees are present: Trustee Foreman, Trustee Mackey, Trustee Flores, Trustee Mitchgay, Trustee Garcia, Trustee Johnson, and Marshall stepped out for a second. They'll be back in the room. And I believe Trustee Solis, there he is. Trustee Solis is joining us via video conference. Our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Michael Hinojosa, joins us, and I'm Justin Henry, Board President. Trustee Flores, do you mind doing that?
Si hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete para escuchar la junta en español, por favor levante la mano. La persona que está de pie en la parte de atrás del salón los podrá ayudar. Y no sé si lo están haciendo por video. Disculpen.
Thank you. On March 16th, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic and video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus, COVID-19. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. A, notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference or telephone call. We're meeting by use of Zoom software application, which allows two-way communication for members of the public. As we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public will follow the instructions on the meeting notice for registering to speak during the public comment portion will be unmuted for 3 minutes to speak. If you would like to provide comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference or telephone call, please follow instructions on the meeting notice. E, all other meeting procedures will adhere to board-adopted procedures to the extent practicable. F, an audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be made available to the public. G, we apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigated unprecedented conditions. If you have any questions about these suspended laws, please call the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787 or by email at toma@oag.texas.gov. Trustees, I don't think there are any recognitions today, and we're now going to move on to the public forum part of our meeting. Ms. Chantel Grant, welcome back. We'll call out the names as opposed to Dino Harris today. If you go ahead and begin. Thank you and welcome back.
Our first speaker is Trustee Joyce Foreman.
Thank you. Excuse me. I have spent the last 6 years attempting to make sure that there was transparency in the operations of Dallas ISD. That was a commitment that I made to the voters of District 6 and others who supported my candidacy or this position. It has been difficult maintaining the openness with policies being changed by the board to restrict board members from pulling items from the consent agenda for a separate vote. As you probably know, the consent agenda is on all the items and it's passed with one vote. In most cases, the items are brought forward by the administration at the board briefing and then they're ready to be voted on at the board meeting. There are usually questions regarding some of the items that are not answered at the board briefing, and I am often one of few who submit questions and ask for clarification, data, and justification. These last 2 years, without some of the former board members to help with the questions, I have found myself in a position of literally begging for items to be pulled, but getting little to no support from other trustees. I am done with that. I will be speaking at each board meeting to let the citizens know what is on the consent agenda that I have questions about. You, the citizens, can decide if there is justification in my questioning some of the items that are not pulled for a separate vote. There are actually 88 items tonight on the consent agenda. Items like 6.04, FO policy, changing terminology to a parent mindset, which is a question because that becomes subjective. Item 667, where have the hotspots been distributed by zip code? The top 6 are 75211, 75220, 75216, 75217, 75228, 75227. What happened to South Dallas and Oak Cliff? 75210, 75215, 75241, 75233, 75233. I cannot support the consent agenda until there is clarity on the issues of concern for me specifically, and the community is getting the level of transparency that they deserve. Dallas ISD has a $1.8 billion budget that is funded by taxpayers, and they deserve to know what we are doing and how we are doing it. We blocked them in the audit committee, and now we're blocking them with the consent agenda. I will be making these statements monthly. We have board members who pushed to close Dallas County schools and said it was the board members' fault for lack of oversight. We are on the same slippery slope. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leah Murgo.
Good evening to all members of the esteemed trustee board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm a mother of an incoming second grader at DeGollier Elementary who is in the dual language Spanish immersion program. This is a school and community we love with all our hearts. To give you some context, I will share that my husband and I both work outside of the home. He in construction and me at a hospital as a dietitian, providing therapy and tube feeding for patients, including critically ill COVID patients. Throughout this time, we have been piecemealing solutions for educational and socialization needs. We have made it work along with thousands of other families in the same position. It is not a secret that prolonged school closures further harm our children in various ways, especially those in prime learning years K through 5. The recent announcement of delayed openings draw concerns from many in the community, which I will list. 1, what is the expectation and resources available for families who work outside of the home and now have to make arrangements for tutors and childcare? 2, how do you do Spanish immersion online? 3, what alternatives are there for parents who oppose virtual learning due to privacy and safety concerns, or the child will not adapt to virtual learning due to special learning style and needs? 5, why is there no balance of concern for the physical, mental, and social health of our children? 6, what research is happening to see how effective virtual school for K through 5 is versus the unnecessary stress it causes? 7, what response has been provided to families who chose in-person learning in the initial survey in June? I can answer that one, none. My hand is forced and I must accept a plan that does not work for my family under the indefinite direction of what some experts think is safe. I've considered quitting my job and reducing my hours, which is not good. I've considered taking out of savings to go to a school that would be in person, perhaps private. I've even considered moving out of the district where schools have offered choices. I do not want to leave DISD because I see the value in our community, dual language, and other beneficial programs. I have the resources to even entertain these ideas, but as you all know, many others do not, most do not. The most likely result will be lost wages coupled with increasing instability and stress at home. Somehow schools in Highland Park, Southlake, and Richardson figured it out, as well as districts in San Antonio that are using more than COVID data to drive decisions for phase into school. So now with 2 weeks notice, which is terribly unfair, parents are expected to make life-changing decisions or just deal with it. Respectfully, I'm going to advocate for my child every day. I have been patient, optimistic, understanding, and involved. I have sent comments, emails, and surveys in favor of in-person options. I've called to speak and left messages with questions, all of which have gone unanswered. Now I am frustrated, feel unheard, and ignored. I've read about leadership making the decision with help from experts, with millions invested in technology in hopes of appeasing stakeholders. Well, no one asked me,
Thank you.
and I'm the expert.
Our next speaker is Michelle Bonton.
afternoon, trustees and Superintendent Hinojosa. My name is Michelle Bonton, and I'm an education justice leader with the Texas Organizing Project and a policy specialist with the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats. But most importantly, I'm an advocate for educational equity for Black and Latino children. The district's inclusion of academic achievement and district transformation on the agenda is very appropriate. However, a meaningful conversation about transformation cannot take place without a discussion about racial equity and the district's need to demonstrate a commitment towards the same. DISD has an Office of Racial Equity. However, currently the office is without permanent leadership, and the lead position is not a chief level position. The absence of a permanent leader at the chief level hinders the district's ability to truly advance racial equity in tangible and meaningful ways. Therefore, on behalf of the thousands of disenfranchised, marginalized DISD minority students, we urge the district to name a permanent leader for the Racial Equity Office and to make the position a chief level position. Additionally, we strongly urge the district to ensure that the person selected has some experience and training in racial equity or education justice or urban education, as doing so will increase the likelihood that the person will be effective in the performance of his or her duties. We know that Trustee Maxie Johnson is a strong supporter of the push for DISD to name a permanent RIO director, and that the person have the aforementioned qualifications. And we want to thank Trustee Johnson for his support and for standing with us in our efforts regarding this issue. The district has already lost funding in excess of $1 million from the state for failing to meet its racial equity progress measures. And in a time when minority students already bear the brunt of generations of inequitable resource allocation, failing to name a permanent leader for the Racial Equity Office and to make the lead position in the Racial Equity Office a chief level position will further disenfranchise minority students in DISD. And we urge the district to act now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Diane Birdwell.
Hi, I'm Diane Birdwell. I live at 5705 Meadowick. I'm a representative of NEA Dallas, and I've been hearing from my teachers and others. I read through 6.14 on your agenda tonight. It's about the attestations for asynchronous learning that we'll be doing for the first 4 weeks. It's pretty thorough. It was well done, I must say. It has a great chart that will help us teachers navigate through all the considerations for our ELLs, SEL factors, equity, and of course the TEKS for those who teach in the comprehensive side of the house, and LCs for the AP teachers. But what is not mentioned is something else that I noticed. A lot of accountability words, tracking, assessments, data, feedback. Those are fine words and needed. They're all typical. But then I read under one of the questions where it says key requirements for student progress. The third question down says, how are the expectations for daily student engagement consistent with progress that would occur in an on-campus environment? And I want you to think about that statement, consistent. I have 22 years of teaching in DISD, and if anything has taught me something this year, it's that consistency is not constant this year. The nature of asynchronous learning or hybrid learning when we go back to face-to-face shifts responsibility more and more to the students and their families for learning. And no matter how great the lesson is, no matter how willing we are to go that extra mile, no matter how much we try to contact the students, engage them in a lesson, the completion of work will be up to the student. It concerns me and members who have reached out to me in NEA Dallas that while we are granting leeway for students, who's granting leeway for us under TEI? Will the rubric stay same and rigid? Will the goals that we have to discuss with our assistant principals next week be the same as last year, or will there be a consistency that's expected, or will you understand what's happening here? How much time is going to be spent on this data collection and chart filling and follow-up? Focus on learning this year, not the TEI. TEI is still a sword over our heads that no other teachers in Texas have to deal with right now. Let's end that. You know I want TEI to go away. This would be a great year to end it. But whoever wrote 6.14, thank you very much. And remember us when y'all discuss TEI. Thank you.
Next speaker, Sharon Wright Jackson. Ms. Jackson, you have 3 minutes to speak. Next speaker, Sina Nyanku. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello. Hello. This is Sharon Wright Jackson. Good evening, Board of Trustees. I am with Texas Organizing Project Leaders Team, as well as a community activist. It is our goal and our objective in Texas Organizing Project to define a systematic racial equity training program as a part of the ongoing efforts to reorganize the Racial Equity Office. The Racial Equity Working Group worked with national partners, Education Resource Strategies, and the Education Trust to study the needs in the district. It was noted in the findings that racial equity training across the district was paramount. The community still wants racial equity. We now are in a time when racial tensions are at their most high. It is very vital that the board continue to work towards that training for all staff, parents, administration. This can easily be done with a partnership with the DISD Professional and Digital Learning and moving forward with the training. We are asking that you develop a racial equity action plan and policy to incorporate equity training into the district structure. Set a clear goal for a request for proposal within the Racial Equity Office for consultants to begin the teacher training. Thank you.
Next speaker, Sina Nyanku.
Hello, yes. Can y'all hear me? Good evening. My name is Sina Nyanku. I'm a leader with TOP. I'm here today as a member of the community who is invested in seeing an equitable future for the children within Dallas ISD. Today, I would like to address the need for holding the Office of Racial Equity accountable. As a member of TOP, we ask the Office of Racial Equity's chief leadership to provide the community with a strategic plan of how racial equity will be promoted throughout the community over the next 100 days. We find having an action plan is imperative when ensuring progress is being made toward a goal. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, and thank you to Trustee Johnson for your support.
Our next speaker is Bill Betson.
Hello?
Mr.
Yes.
Yes, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Hello, Bill Betson. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear anybody.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, anyhow, I'm very concerned about transparency. Every time there are objections to items on the consent agenda, those objections almost always follow a very consistent pattern, year after year, month after month. If keeping the board meeting efficient was a true goal for your not addressing these items, you would simply require that those questions be answered in the documentation that is submitted with every single item for the agenda. But that is not happening. Why? It would save time and it would add to transparency. it appears that transparency is the enemy and that the trustees claiming transparency during their campaigns are not being honest. They would require those questions be answered in the written documentation. That's not happening. Finally, regarding the 2020 bond transparency, back in the 2015 bond, it was on 9/4/15 when the 2015 facility planning matrix by high school feeder pattern was released. Is DISD going to be releasing the 2020 facility planning matrix by high school feeder pattern next Friday? I hope so. We need the transparency. We need to see the way we're going. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Nancy Rodriguez. Our next speaker is Diane Tanzanine.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you. I am Diane Tassian. I live at 3831 Turtle Creek Boulevard, Dallas 75219, and am the grandparent of students at Rosemont Elementary and Sudie Williams Tag. I am testifying as president and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Dallas in support of transparency, clearly a theme this evening, of all aspects of the district, and especially regarding the 2020 bond proposal. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. We believe that democratic government depends upon informed and active participation in government and requires that governmental bodies protect the citizens' right to know by giving adequate notice of proposed actions, holding open meetings, and making public records accessible. The 2020 bond proposal board briefing on June 11th was not transparent, did not provide information to actually make a decision on many of the items listed in the proposal. In addition, evidence has not been provided that Citizens Bond Steering Committee members have signed a conflict of interest form. A few specific examples are: where is the research that provides a proof of need for the proposed performing arts facility downtown and compares the cost of renting one of the 10 existing facilities? How does the district justify spending more money per child at Booker T compared to other community schools? The district could negotiate a contract to use one of the 10 downtown theaters or alternate the use of facilities. Students benefit by performing in different types of theaters. 2, where is the data that provides a proof of need for a downtown pre-K through 12 school? There are many community schools with tremendous needs that are being ignored. Every school should provide a quality education. Neighborhood schools are best partly because students and parents can get there at the lowest cost to families and the district. 3, where is the research and analysis to establish a proof of need for school community hubs with data at the specific locations? What other school districts confirm the benefits of community hubs and have been successful in improving student performance by taking money out of the classroom and providing the hubs? School bonds are designed with the legal purpose of funding public education's capital needs. Local and state agencies should fulfill their mandated services. 4, where is the data that confirms equity between schools in the north and south sides of the city when 2/3 of the students attend schools in the south side of the district? Every school should be included in a single spreadsheet with expenditures per child by category. Thank you for providing.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Maritza Martinez.
Hello?
You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Maritza Martinez. I'm a teacher at the Maria Moreno STEAM Academy. First First of all, thank you for listening to the health guidance of Dallas County health officials and choosing only virtual instruction for the first 4 weeks. I believe this decision is beneficial and will favor children and staff from unnecessary illness and death, and hope that you will continue to follow expert guidance. Although this is a great start, there is still work to be done. Teachers are expected to return to work on campus on September 17th. Why? If we have the choice to teach virtually for the first 2.5 weeks of instruction, then what is changing from September 16th to the 17th? Absolutely nothing. As such, we should continue to have the choice of whether we would like to return to campus. We know this highly contagious virus is airborne. Hospital COVID patients are placed in negative pressure rooms so that the airborne virus around them does not escape and go out into the hallways with civilians, other patients, or healthcare workers. Classrooms often share HVAC systems with adjacent rooms, which would allow the airborne virus to travel between them. It is an unnecessary risk to force teachers to risk their health despite being able to complete their work in the safety of their homes. Other professions who are working virtually are not being required to risk their health and work from a location other than home. Why are we any different? My supervisor has made the choice to deny my second AWA, even though all I am asking is to work remotely September 17th to October 6th for my safety. I suffer from pre-existing conditions which make me more susceptible to suffer from severe symptoms due to contracting the virus. I fear for my life, and the time I spend teaching for my classroom will be spent in fear. If I contract the virus and die, my life is on your hands. The United States population makes up 4% of the world, yet we make up 22% of the world's COVID-19 deaths. I hope that despite our country's leadership's disregard for the safety of human lives, my employer would prioritize safety, but I'm not sure that's the case. Additionally, I would like to bring attention to the fact that DISD substitutes received an email that they won't be needed for the first 4 weeks. Does this mean that teachers won't be allowed to take sick days? Will be expected to teach virtually even while sick? Will we not be allowed to take personal days? Will students get a day off if we cannot work? In the words of Dr. Hinojosa, the pandemic does not have an expiration date. We cannot continue a high-stakes testing environment in the face of a global pandemic. A reduction in local testing is necessary. In a normal school year, our students are already over-tested, but this will not be a normal school year. This much is already apparent. Reduce the unnecessary testing our students are subjected to. Finally, I implore you to put the human lives above all else. As it stands, Dallas County makes up 4% of the population in Texas, yet Dallas County makes up 12% of the state's COVID-19 cases. We must wait until we meet the following criteria: at least 14 days of declining cases in Dallas County, and the state of Texas at less than 5% positivity rate. Until then, virtual instruction should be the only mode of instruction, and teachers should have the choice of whether they want to risk unnecessary exposure in the classroom. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Aaron Crittenton.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Superintendent Hinojosa, Ms. Foreman, and the other trustees. My name is Erin Crittenden, and I am a rising senior at David W. Carter High School. I'm a volleyball player and a soccer player at my school. As much as I would love to say that the academics within our school district is the reason we shine, the only reason we shine, that is far from the truth. Athletics have been the reason many people bring attraction to our district. It is only fair with the way that we have represented you with scholar athletes these past years that we receive the same respect back by letting us have our season. By letting go of athletics for the year, many people will lose their scholarships, many students' futures will be put on pause. And with this comes problems. Our suburban counterparts are having practices and have season schedules set up. Even the UIL has made a provision for a season to happen this fall, meaning we can't go back and have our own season. Many students who are eager to play will start to leave our school district and go to the other districts who are having sports. This will decrease our enrollment, which will affect our funding soon later. As we continue to look at the numbers, as of a few days ago, Dallas County has seen a significant drop in the cases since April. If you can take some time to think of certain precautions we can take to prevent a spread during games and practices, such as making sure you sanitize the hands, equipment, and the floors of the gym, would be a great start. Requiring athletes to wear masks during games and practice, invest in a new COVID budget for athletics so we're able to have everything we need for our student athletes. All we're asking is that you at least try to let us have our season and not put other students' futures at risk. We will make best with whatever decision that you make. Just think of putting yourself in our shoes. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Glenda Barrett.
Can you hear me?
You have 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Barrett, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello. My name is Linda Barrett. I am a bus driver. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Linda Barrett. I am with Longview, and it's nice to be here. I'm speaking on behalf of the transportation CDL drivers, for the bus drivers and monitors. My concern is that the drivers were not taken care of over the summer and seem like we're still not being taken care of. We were told over the time that we would be able to take have our unemployment, and something happened. Then they reversed it and said that they wouldn't. And so ever since May the 28th, we have been without funding, and up until now. And so it seemed like that no one cared. And so we are hoping that as time goes on, that we will be able to change these laws about the unemployment for the drivers. The drivers normally work during the summertime, and they have worked. They have done trips. They have worked during the summer. And so it seemed like we have been forgotten. And just seemed like that everything has, our dignity and everything else has been taken from us. And it seemed like no one cared. And so we hope that everything would change and that y'all would absolutely care about us and look and see that we are employees of DISD too. So we thank you.
Our next speaker, Maricela Zuniga.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Hinojosa, President Henry, and Board of Trustees. My name is Maricela Zuniga, and I'm a pre-K teacher in Dallas ISD and Executive Board member of Alliance AFT. Dr. Hinojosa, I would like to thank you for your leadership and making the hard decision to start 100% virtually. Thank you for believing the science and following the guidance of Judge Jenkins and Dr. Huang to keep Dallas ISD employees and students safe. Let's continue to look at the public health guidelines as we draw closer to October 6th and follow suit if the data shows it is not safe. I would also like to thank you for making sure our transportation and cafeteria workers continue to receive pay in order to provide for themselves and their families. As the saying goes, know better, do better. Here's an opportunity for us to do better. Just today in the social distance conversation video, it was mentioned that our cafeteria workers are essential and provided over 8 million meals. Let's show them how much they are valued by providing them with year-round pay along with our transportation drivers. It was also mentioned in that video, when thinking of safety guidelines, specifically ordering PPE, that things were looked at through the lens of a student, teacher, and principal. If we had had elected consultation, where teachers and staff would have had a seat at the table of how to reopen schools safely, we could have collectively come up with a plan. Unless you're at the campus level, you can overlook and miss things that are crucial to everyone's safety. Let's restore elected consultation so we can truly work together. Here are some questions I have received from fellow employees. So why are teachers having to report to campus on September 17th, especially if TEI will require all teachers, including DTR, to have more observations? Or if by then that the county says it's still not safe to return. In the district, is the district still going to subject students to the same amount of testing like in pre-pandemic years? Why are AWAs being denied even after principals have approved them? How are we going to ensure our buses are properly cleaned and well ventilated? Will we be given enough air filters for our air purifiers to change them out on a regular basis? Will the air conditioner filters be changed out more than twice a year? Again, I urge you to follow the public health guidelines and not have face-to-face instruction until it is deemed safe. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Our next speaker is Kevin Hopper.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Hopper. I'm a teacher in District 3 and a voter in District 2. First, I'd like to give a word of appreciation for Dr. Hinojosa's recent decision to use his authority granted by the board to start the first 4 weeks of school 100% virtual. However, there seems to have been a severe oversight when it comes to the days other employees must return to campus. Why is it that nurses, librarians, counselors, just to name a few, must return to physical school buildings when it has been deemed clearly unsafe for teachers or students to be in these spaces? This and many other questions continue to come to mind when it seems we all understand the universal logic that dangers of large groups of people the universal logic of the dangers of large groups of people during a pandemic. But I digress, and this is not why I decided to speak tonight. I'm here to speak because our drivers and monitors have been in a crisis. Out of work, uncertain when they will return, unable to collect unemployment because of assured employment laws, uncertain of what a return to work will look like. Many have already lost their homes and personal property during this time of hardship. Our schools depend on our bus drivers, and we need these hard workers to be safe and well taken care of. Our transportation workers are the first point of contact for our students, and our drivers and monitors build rapport with families and students we serve. We put our children in their hands to make sure that they make it to and from school safely each day, to make sure they can attend the best schools, to make sure every child has equal access to education. Many of you have refused to sit down and speak to our bus drivers and monitors. Our drivers are hurting, and Dallas ISD is turning a blind eye to it. Why? The community is screaming at you now to be accountable. We have laid our problems at your doorstep, palms outturned, and all we get is silence. These workers need financial support. 8 hours a day at 5 days a week for regular pay. These workers need a formalized committee, written in policy, to review problems related to the concerns of bus drivers and monitors. Too often, our drivers are left in situations where their physical safety is put into jeopardy, and they are left with no recourse to improve their working conditions. Whether this be fights on the bus or lack of PPE and proper sanitation on their buses in the coming school year, our drivers and monitors cannot be left out to dry any longer. I ask the trustees create a resolution to solve the issues plaguing our transportation workers, one that seeks to ensure these workers have safe, sane working conditions, one that seeks to ensure our public school transportation system remains accountable and remains public. Oh, in regards to transparency, public information requests have been suspended since March. What's going on? This is not a good look. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Sherry Beach.
Hello. Good evening, Dr. Hinojosa and board members. My name is Sherry Beach, and I reside at 9111 Mercer Drive in District 3. I come to you tonight for transparency regarding the 2015 bond package for Bryan Adams High School. Just in the last several months, we are learning the exciting changes in upgrading that are well-deserved, especially for our fine arts department. I wrote the district in April of 2019, and again around then in 2020 for answers, and was told, we'll consider your comments, and I'm still waiting. In 2009, as the site-based chair, PTSA member, and parent, I was instrumental in working with the district, alumni, staff, and parents regarding the best cougar to represent our mascot. Yet 5 years later, it's a proposed work item slated to cost $117,000 per district documents. 3 years ago, Richard Castle turned off the marquee and since has not contacted the company for repair. The upgrades at that time were $6,000. At the BA bond meeting a month ago, someone stated that the 2015 bond money was being used to make the marquees lower and encased in brick. And what the bond drawing revealed is not the same as what was stated. Nor was that at Skyline's marquee that was actually done last year. If you encase the existing pole and switch out the marquee or the graphics, they'll look just like Skyline's brand new marquee. Bryan Adams' marquee was vandalized 3 weeks after it was installed. Lower to the ground should not be considered. Save the district a lot of money and use it elsewhere in our building. They also stated the existing logo would be used. Is that the leadership logo? In 2016, Mr. Castle, without going through the alumni or proper protocol, tried to change Bryan Adams to Bryan Adams Leadership Academy, and even TEA has rejected that. I've gone to many of you sitting in the boardroom now through meetings, emails, as well as multiple times to Elizalde about the lack of leadership, the harassment and bullying of staff and community members, as well as the multiple policy violations, including a student who brought a gun to school that served only 3 days and was back in class playing sports and graduated. Is that what you define leadership? There was also no lockdown. And this was the third gun incident.
Your time has expired. Our next speaker is John Madney.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here to request that DISD reconsider its current mandate delaying participation in extracurricular activities. I'm the parent of a current DISD student who participates in football, basketball, choir, and theater, and he would be here to speak tonight, but he's working, so I'm speaking on his behalf and on behalf of the other students who want to return to their activities. Please take immediate action to allow all DISD students the option to return to extracurricular activities, whether that be athletics, band, choir, cheer, dance, ROTC, robotics, whatever it might be, regardless of whether the students are attending school in person. I ask this for several reasons. Extracurricular activities are an important part of a student's education. They often serve as the motivation for students to attend and remain in school, and staying connected to school often provides many of our students invaluable basic services that many of them need on a daily basis. It's also important that our DISD students be afforded the same opportunities that are afforded to nearly every other student their age in the state of Texas. I spend much of my work time visiting virtually every area of the Metroplex. I've recently seen students actively participating in extracurricular activities at other schools in Dallas County, in Denton County, in Tarrant County, and in Collin County. I've seen it most recently at Braswell High School in Denton County, and even this morning at Wiley. I encourage you to do everything within your power to open up extracurricular activities to our students by following the current UIL schedule and the guidance of the UIL Health Committee. Those guidelines are allowing football seasons to start for 5A and 6A schools on September 7th. And I'm hopeful that our DISD students will be able to participate at the same time, consistent with UIL and CDC guidelines, rather than more restrictive guidelines that might call for shutdowns in the event of a single positive test. We now know that such shutdowns and such guidelines are unnecessary and ineffective if we appropriately follow CDC guidelines that have been issued. These activities are particularly important to the students of DISD who are often at a disadvantage when competing with kids from suburban and other large schools with more extensive resources. You hold a very important decision in your hands, and I respectfully request that you use your ability to have a uniquely positive impact on the many DISD students who are literally begging for your help. I hope you saw and heard the many students who respectfully voiced their request at DISD's headquarters earlier this week. Kids from Madison and Skyline, Woodrow, Hillcrest, W.T. White, and other schools. I hope you're as proud of those kids as all of us parents are, and I hope you heard their pleas. Help these students continue to excel by allowing them to return to their activities.
Expired. Our next speaker is Isaac Steen. Our next speaker is Letty Gomez.
This is Isaac Steen, and I'm thanking y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak. And as I hear all the other speakers speaking about racial equity, transparency, and other things that are very important to this community, my problem is that ever since this pandemic happened, that the Board of Trustees has done so much damage against the community because the community cannot come down and voice our opinion in person, and we have to do it virtually. So that way we can be muted. We don't even know if we are being heard over the Zoom because people are saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And I want to say that when it comes down to leadership, that the Board of Trustees have really let the community down. When you listen at Trustee Foreman says that she will speak once a month, which is a lot of time to speak, until we get transparency restored, because we can't get agenda items pulled. There were some situations that went on when we was promised that some things were going to be on hold about closing schools in the southern sector. But once the pandemic hit and we all went on Zoom, then all of a sudden decisions was made because there are no community gathering to come down and voice our opinion in numbers. And the district is talking about a bond package and also talking about partnering with the city of Dallas and the county of Dallas on projects. Then we are being railroaded by this Board of Trustees, because when I vote, it's for Ms. Joyce Foreman to be on that Board of Trustees. My vote gave her the power to make decisions about the concerns of our community. And when the board seems to hand over all this power to the superintendent, which I didn't vote for him, and I don't trust him, and I don't have to trust him. I trusted the person I voted for. And for some of these board trustees that attended Leadership ISD, they sure got a poor way of showing it, because they are handing over their abilities and the power that we have given them through the vote. And I think it's a disgust, and I will not ask the the Board of Trustees to do anything for me from this point on. I'm asking somebody at a higher level to investigate this board that's got rid of the auditors and everybody that questioned the way that this board operates. Thank you. Bye.
Our next speaker, Ms. Letty Gomez. Ms. Gomez, you have 3 minutes to speak. Our next speaker is Andrew Kirk.
Hello, Letty Gomez. Hola.
Hello, this is Letty
Hola.
Gomez. Hello.
Sí, soy Letty Gómez, fundadora de Padres Grupo de Apoyo. 3527 Delafield Lane, Dallas, Texas 75227. Estoy aquí esta tarde. Primero, gracias por la oportunidad. Estoy representando a mi grupo de apoyo que está formado para familias que tienen estudiantes en educación especial. Debido a este tiempo tan difícil en medio de esta pandemia, todavía las familias no están recibiendo toda la información de Dallas ISD en su idioma. Hemos tenido las semanas pasadas conferencias virtuales donde hubo traducción al español, pero la parte escrita no estuvo traducida. O la conferencia de esta mañana donde no tuvimos traducción. Entonces, las familias, si no tienen la información completa o tienen la información a medias, no ayuda a entender este proceso de decisiones que está haciendo el distrito. Les pido, por favor, que consideren a la comunidad hispanohablante como una comunidad que necesita ser atendida en su propio idioma.
The information provided in their own language.
Si necesitamos hacer algo como comunidad,
something, for example, like speak up,
por favor, no duden en contactarme.
Do not hesitate in calling me.
Estamos más que dispuestos para ayudar a que esto suceda.
Available to help in this process.
Gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Andrew Kirk.
Hi, can you hear me?
You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Andrew Kirk, Alliance AFT building leader and executive board member and teacher at Sunset High School. First, I'd like to thank our superintendent for protecting public health and safety with the recent decision to start remotely. I'm speaking because other staff have relayed safety concerns to our union that have not been addressed. First, there are several job categories that are being asked to report to their work sites when their work could feasibly be completed remotely. Among them, nurses, counselors, teaching assistants, media specialists, and office personnel. These workers are being asked to report during the 3-week period prior to teachers' report date. This essentially means 3 weeks of potential exposure, undermining our own efforts to safeguard public health. Please do the right thing and allow these critical staff to work remotely as you already have for teachers and central staff. Nurses in particular should be substantively involved in any discussion of reopening, considering the high likelihood of their own exposure to the virus. Many have expressed concern about the district's consistency when implementing safety protocols, such as the preparation of isolation rooms on campus. Similarly, others have indicated their strong need for training updates on infectious disease controls specific to the school environment, in addition to grave concerns about their access to appropriate PPE, such as N95 masks. I urge our trustees and administration to take these issues seriously and directly involve our school nursing staff in all planning related to reopening. Nurses' staffing ratios are already far too high, and if their responsibilities also include COVID screening and other practices related to control of the virus, unsustainable workloads could contribute to burnout and attrition, all on top of significantly higher health risks. Our district has an opportunity to ensure that our own healthcare workers are protected and their expertise valued. We can't afford not to take it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nayli Azad.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Dr. Hinojosa and members of the board. My name is Nayli Azad. I'm a product of Dallas ISD and a teacher here in the district. I'm also a voter in District 8 and a member of AFT Alliance. I'd like to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address my concerns to you surrounding the safety of my colleagues working in support staff who are being required to work on campus, placing them and their families at unnecessary risk. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of the school nurses who've not felt consulted in any substantive way about reopening, saying most of the training they're receiving is not aligned to what responding to COVID-19 will actually look like. The following are words of concern from a DISD school nurse. School nurses provide high-quality healthcare to thousands of DISD students yearly and are often the only healthcare provider students see regularly. Because we are frontline healthcare workers, we will be the single most at-risk professional for contracting COVID-19 on campus this year. We'll be interacting with all identified potentially infected students and staff members. Many of us are often older than nurses in other specialties, putting us in additional risk categories. Studies of the H1N1 pandemic of the 2009-2010 school year demonstrated that school nurses were at risk of infection because they were often the first healthcare provider to respond to students and staff who may be affected. Additionally, all school nurses should be provided with fit testing for N95 masks in order to ensure they are appropriately sealed and protective. School nurses will also have incredibly increased workloads as they care for hundreds of students, often with no assistant. We must ensure help is available to all campus nurses. It's unacceptable to overburden, overwork, and unduly stress any staff members during a pandemic, as this increases their chances of infection, illness, and death. We've seen much news coverage about the risks to doctors and nurses working in hospitals during the coronavirus pandemic, but healthcare workers in community settings like schools are sometimes at even higher risk due to a lack of advanced PPE, negative pressure rooms, and coworkers who also have advanced education and training in principles of infection control. Studies of the 2009-2010 H1N1 pandemic showed school nurses, school personnel, and school children were at higher risk of infection than hospital workers for many of these same reasons. I urge our trustees to take the action necessary to ensure proper PPE for all school nurses and for them to continue working from home while no students are present on campus. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Ashley Fiamingo.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ashley Fiamingo. Good evening, Superintendent Hinojosa and board members. I am a science teacher at Franklin D. Roosevelt High School and a member of Alliance AFT. First and foremost, I wish to thank you, Superintendent Hinojosa, for your leadership in promoting public safety in the decision to start classes 100% remotely. I urge you to continue to follow public health guidance when determining when to transition to offering in-person instruction. Epidemiologists have been consistent in stating that a test positivity rate of less than 5% is needed for safe reopening of schools. Today, Dallas County reported a 12.8% positivity rate for week 33. We clearly have a ways to go, even though some metrics are moving in the right direction. I also want to thank you for ensuring that our cafeteria and transportation workers will receive pay during remote learning to ensure that they can provide for themselves and their families after neglecting many of them over the summer. These employees are essential and valued members of our school communities who often do not feel respected. I would like to request that you show a commitment to these essential support staff by developing a resolution calling for a state law enabling them to collect unemployment during the summer months. I also urge you to consider guaranteeing them 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, instead of the 6 hours a day that the district is proposing. Dallas County remains in the red level identified as stay home, stay safe. Faculty and staff should not be encouraged to report to campus or required to work from campus during this time. It makes no sense that teachers are considered capable of working remotely until September 17th, but will need to teach from campus after that date. It is illogical and does not promote the safety of the individuals working on campus, nor the broader Dallas community. Yes, some individuals must be on campus to complete some of the essential functions of their job, but everyone at home makes everyone in the building safer. Additionally, we need to reevaluate the extensive testing that will be imposed on students this year. The American Academy of Pediatrics included in their COVID-19 related school recommendations the following statement, quote, plans to make up for lost academic progress because of school closures and distress associated with the pandemic should be balanced by a recognition of the likely continued distress of educators and students that will persist when schools reopen. If the academic expectations are unrealistic, school will likely become a source of further distress for students and educators at a time when they need additional support, unquote. Teachers want to support our students in both their social, emotional, and academic development this year. Excessive testing consumes valuable instructional time and imposes additional stresses on students and teachers. We need to see an immediate reduction in local testing volume in Dallas ISD. You adopted a calendar with 9-week grading cycles, but are still requiring 6-week common assessments. Again, illogical. Yes, some assessments are necessary to guide instruction and track student growth, but Dallas ISD has had an excessive amount of testing for years, an issue that is especially concerning as we move into this new school year, continuing to be affected by the pandemic. Please continue to regard the health and well-being of all members of the Dallas ISD community as paramount as we embark on this 2020-2021 school year. We can catch up on learning. We cannot replace lives. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rena Honey. Ms. Honey, you have 3 minutes to speak. Our next speaker is Rosemary Kurtz.
Hi. My name is Rosie Kurtz. I'm a building leader for Alliance AFT at Adamson High School. First, as others have said, I want to thank Superintendent Hinojosa for making the right decision to keep school entirely virtual for at least the first 4 weeks. He had to make this choice, people angry either way, and I'm glad he chose the side of health and common sense. I especially appreciate his statement that if TEA tried to cut funding before the Dallas County public health experts recommended reopening, he was prepared to recommend that the school board vote to sue the agency. That is exactly the kind of strong, bold leadership I was looking for. So again, Dr. Hinojosa, thank you. I have with me a statement from a teacher's assistant, not from my school, to read to you. It says, I'm a teacher assistant at DISD, and I have 3 children ages 2, 4, and 9. I am the breadwinner in my family. The schools are closed, and my son's daycare is also closed since they follow the Dallas ISD calendar. At the moment, I do not have any family member who can take care of my children, and I am requesting to work from home. My duties at school are creating flyers, translations, phone calls to volunteers, and helping teachers with students. I'm able to do that remotely. I don't see the reason for me to be in school away from my kids and at risk of getting COVID-19. I know that I am a teacher assistant and not a teacher, but I am also a staff member of DISD. We must also have benefits, and you must understand that we have limitations as well. I will not leave my children in a place that I do not know or cannot afford. AWA only benefits teachers or people who have medical problems. My AWA was denied, and the only options I have are using my PTO or leave with no pay. Please help me understand how I am able to support my family during this pandemic. Signed, a teacher's assistant in need. I want to say that when I got this statement, it hurt me to read, I know that I am a teacher assistant and not a teacher, but I am also a member of DISD. It sounds like this TA is apologizing for being a mere assistant and still having the audacity to care about their life and family. Our support staff should not feel like they are less than teachers, like their lives and families are not as valuable. This goes for TAs, nurses, and anyone else. Many of these people can do their jobs from home, especially since kids are not in school anyway. We have deemed it unsafe for teachers and students to be at school right now. Support staff are not magically immune either. They should be able to work from home. And since I know some teachers are listening to this, I need to close with an important public service announcement. All week, my union siblings and I have been getting messages from teachers who are being told by their administrators that they must report in person for professional development starting today and through next week. Teachers, you need to know, DISD Human Capital Management made it clear to our union president that administrators are not allowed to require any teacher to report in person during this time. If your administrator says that in-person attendance is required, call your union right away and report it. Again, admin are not allowed to require in-person attendance for PD. If your administrator is doing this, they are dead wrong. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rena Honey. Our next speaker is Christine Childress.
Hello, I'm a parent of 3 children in Dallas ISD and the co-founder of PACT, Parent Advocates for Children and Teachers. I want to thank you for making the safe decision to keep school virtual for at least the first 4 weeks of this semester. I know so many of us in the community have breathed a sigh of relief that this will help keep Dallas's case numbers going down and help us all get back to normal sooner rather than later. We appreciate your leadership on making that tough but right call with the guidance of our county health officials. I'm speaking today, though, out of concern for the safety of school staff and teachers who, to my knowledge, are largely being compelled to return to work in person, even when their jobs are able to be done virtually. I've spoken with many members of school staff, such as librarians and nurses, who are concerned for their risk of exposure by needlessly being around other adults on campus, even when students are all learning from home. Compelling any member of school staff to return to work in person when school has been deemed too unsafe for students not only puts the staff at unnecessary risk of illness, it also leaves many of them in a situation with young children who have nowhere else to go. This week, I spoke with a librarian who's also a single parent whose job is able to be completed at this time 100% virtually. She's been told that reporting to school in person is required, which means her child will have to go into the building with her when she reports to work. This means she and her child are being exposed to everyone else in that building for her to do a job that could just as easily be done from her home. What is the point of this requirement? With this policy, DISD is sending the message that children's safety and well-being is not their concern. You are sending the message that your employees are not worthy of the safety and consideration that we're expecting of every. It is key to our society to be able to function without putting people in harm's way. DISD should be exemplifying the kind of understanding and flexibility for its employees that we need all employers to offer to be able to make it possible for kids to learn virtually while safe at home. The denial of AWAs for almost all school staff and teachers has not gone unnoticed. Creating a policy to allow staff and teachers to apply, but then giving blanket denial or arbitrarily disqualifying some staff from applying with no process for appeal is completely dishonest. It is not only poor leadership, but it is downright cruel to put your employees in this impossible position during a pandemic. Allowing as many people as possible to do their jobs from home keeps fewer people in the building, which makes it safer for those who do report in person. My advocacy group has heard from a lot of teachers and staff, and they're unbelievably dedicated to their students. But the district will lose a lot of them if it continues to mistreat them and show them that they will not be taken care of as employees in times like these. I'm sure you know you've already lost many. What are you telling your parents about the value of our children's education if you treat your employees so badly that we're left with last-minute replacements who are barely qualified for the job? On behalf of every member of school staff, from nurses and librarians to TAs, custodial and cafeteria staff, to teachers and campus administration staff, I urge you.
Our next speaker is Zoe Holden.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
You have 3 minutes to speak.
All right, thank you. Hello, my name is Zoe Holden, and I am speaking on behalf of our educators and support staff in Dallas ISD. While the decision for a remote start to the school year should absolutely be applauded, the superintendent and school leadership made some very critical oversights with our support staff, requiring many of them to be needlessly on campus. To be frank, if a job can be done virtually, it should be done virtually. There's no reason to have staff at the school who do not need to be there, and neither should they have to justify their need to stay home, whether they have high-risk family members, are high-risk themselves, or simply do not have the child care needed to look after their children while they are at campus. One less person on campus is one less potential infection. It is up to that staff member, regardless of their position, to determine their ability to be on campus, not the superintendent, not the school board, and certainly not an administrator who may have personal biases clouding their judgment. Why make this difficult? If a staff member says that they are safer working virtually, allow them to, and not make them have to go through an onerous appeals process. Just today, the district clarified that the campus employees can bring their children to campus on occasion, but occasionally does not accommodate the TA who is a single mother to 3 young children who need daycare every day. By increasing the number of staff and potentially children on a campus, you are unnecessarily increasing the risk of the spread of the coronavirus. It is also imperative to rethink Dallas's high-stakes testing and teacher evaluation system. With online classes, families and students in distress, expecting comparable testing outcomes and tying teachers' pay to promotions to that is deeply unfair to educators. You need to reduce the burden of testing such as IACAs, ACPs, and MAP. Additionally, the district must provide work and pay for our support staff who must be on campus and bus drivers with hazard pay. Our bus drivers have been hit particularly hard. Some are living out of their cars because they could not pull unemployment. The district's communication regarding unemployment for bus drivers, many of whom usually work in the summer, has been opaque and oftentimes misleading. They are the first point of contact for students and provide an invaluable service to the district and should be paid year-round. It has been said before, but the board talks big about racial equity and Black Lives Matter, but the jobs that have the most workers of color are often the most neglected. Again, I applaud the decision of the superintendent to delay the start of in-person lessons, but there is still so much that needs to be done to make sure everyone is safe. Give faculty and staff a real seat at the table, not a half-thought-through survey that leave them in fear of retaliation. Let the people actually doing the work have a say. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jackson Grillett. Jackson Grillett.
Hi, Barrett. Okay. Dr. Hinojosa, thank you so much for making the very difficult decision to begin the first 4 weeks online. I truly appreciate that as a teacher at Adamson High School. Today, I come before you first for our bus drivers. Take a moment now to think of your personal budgets, and then think about if you were told you did not have a job for the next 3 months, but you're also unable to get unemployment. We had those bus drivers, and we asked them now to wait another month. This isn't fair. We need to stand up for them. There has to be a way that we can use these trained individuals while our students are learning from home. Can we do meal delivery because parents are working with their students? Mobile libraries. We need to find a way to utilize a fundamental part of our community and pay them what they deserve. Second, support staff, including nurses, TAs, and clerks, are required to return to the school buildings as of this week. However, teachers of record have until September 17th to return to the building. This needs to be the same across the board. Many of these workers can do their jobs remotely, just like teachers, and face the same factors that teachers of record do. I am advocating that no person should step foot in the school on September 17th unless public health guidelines are met. These guidelines are 14 consecutive days of decreasing cases and hospitalizations, positivity rate less than 5%, and transmission rate less than 1%. The last two things I will advocate for is an immediate AWA for any teacher who has to quarantine if they are on campus, so that they may teach from home and they don't have to use their PTO. If that same teacher becomes sick from exposure to COVID at school, they should be covered under workman's compensation. The other thing that I would then ask is if that same person has to take a second quarantine, they do not have to use their PTO again or the government leave. This would cause them on their third exposure or quarantine to be docked in pay. And that can't be fair to our teachers if they do have to return to work. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Tanya Hernandez.
Good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Tanya Hernandez. I'm a proud union member for Alliance AFT. First of all, I want to say that as a member of the Dallas community, I feel very proud and grateful of the leadership, courage, strength, and wisdom of Dr. Hong, Judge Jenkins, and Dr. Hinojosa during these difficult times, and I applaud your recommendation and ultimate decision of starting the school year online. Thank you for protecting the health and life of the citizens of Dallas County. I am here today to speak not for myself, but for my fellow workers and support staff for the district. This is their message. Teachers were given the option to reduce their exposure to fellow employees by teaching students remotely from home. However, school support staff such as counselors, nurses, librarians, and TAs are required to work in person from campus. Once support staff set up their offices and clinics, there's no valid reason to demand they spend 8 hours daily on campus, exposing themselves to an elevated risk of infection, illness, or death by sharing workspaces, buildings, and air with fellow employees during an airborne pandemic. Even in the most state-of-the-art hospitals, coronavirus has been detected in the air outside patients' rooms and in HVAC ductwork. Since students are not physically present, support staff can perform the numerous non-student contact portions of their work from home, as well as reach out to students, families, and teachers to make sure they have the resources they need. Most support staff have an abundance of paperwork related to their jobs, which can be done remotely. Teachers are also being allowed to do virtual professional development days at home, while counselors, librarians, and nurses are being required to drive to their campuses and do virtual PD from work. This is the opposite of social distancing. It sends the message the ISD only cares about the health and safety of teachers who have larger numbers to band together, whereas support staff are not given the same professional respect, courtesy, and concern for their health and safety. Counselors and nurses will be important to schools this year in a way that has been largely invisible and should be treated as the vital professional team members they are.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Deborah Swanson.
Hello.
You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Deborah Swanson. I work in transportation at the Pat Rainey Service Center. My plea to you is to make it imperative to count the drivers and monitors throughout the district that transport our babies daily, your babies daily, safely to their schools and other events. However, during the summer months, we were overlooked for pay. We were overlooked for other opportunities. And as a part of the district, we should have been counted. We should have been included. However, we're asking that before we return to work, that you guys have something in place, some type of PPE equipment. We got to either have PPE, we need a plan, we need something to indicate that we will be safe so we can keep the children safe. We must allow the children to arrive at school safely, not only on the bus through transportation, but they need to get off in a healthy manner. We need to keep that bus clean. We need to keep it safe. We need supplies. We also need holiday pay. We need a 40-hour work week. We need just things that you would normally get on a job that considers us a part of a team. We need some type of summer pay. We cannot endure another summer as we have this past summer. That's just, it's not going to work. We give you 100%, you need to give us 200% because we're representing you. So in saying that, our teachers, they deserve to be heard. If you could get with IT and integrate some type of infomercial while they're teaching, where the kids can know how important it is to maintain still the safe distancing, the hand washing, the mask, because I have went in several of the school bathrooms, there was no soap. A lot of the young kids didn't know how to wash their hands. Even in the teachers' lounges, they need soap, they need adequate supplies in there. So we need to know what type of plan we're going to get together with to actually keep everybody safe in the DISD community. We need to practice safety there so we can take it home, because we do have older people at home. So I thank you for the time. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Have a blessed day.
Our next speaker is Travis Smith.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Dear trustees, superintendent, and officials, as a top 100 teacher and former district finalist for Teacher of the Year, I come to urge you to seek out the guidance of and incline your ears to the voices of the most important people in every child's education, the teachers and staff. Such guidance has been requested before. Thank you, Ms. Foreman and a few other trustees, but no other further accountability has been levied since. It was communicated on Sunday that teachers and staff must all return in person on September 17th. This runs counter to what was communicated by the superintendent on August 12th on Fox News, The Story with Martha McCallum, in that he said our local county health officials said they didn't want teachers even out in the community, so we had to back down from that expectation. That expectation was that of teachers being in classrooms, even if there are no kids there. A few weeks ago, it was asked in a board meeting there be a second survey sent out to better assess the number of teachers wanting to teach from home versus those that want to return to the classroom. That survey has not been created. We do not know the new questions or have results to analyze with less than 10 business days left until the beginning of school, and now our hand is being forced. No other methodologies for getting faculty input have been reported since MIS-EA, and leave with without paid time off have been recommended to those that do not want to risk themselves and their families. Unfortunately, the alternative work arrangement form comes with guidance to supervisors that makes it all but impossible for a teacher to successfully receive it. That document should be publicized. Unless someone has already had COVID-19, there are no safe options available. I'm a single Black father of a young child that is at risk, and my school is in the worst zip code for COVID-19. If I were just a parent, I'd be able to work from home to keep us safe and guide us virtual education. Because I'm a parent and teacher, I don't have the same rights, and my son's rights are also infringed on. The new option for teachers that want to bring their kids to work expires once students return to school on October 6th. It is unsafe for at-risk children. We can teach at school, we can do it at home too. I tell you that we want to teach and we can do it professionally and successfully from home. Just check my AP scores from last year during pandemic. Dallas ISD teachers and staff are the best in the world. Show us that our lives matter by implementing these measures and being accountable. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dayon Primo.
Hello.
You have 3 minutes to speak.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present this very important matter to you. My name is Dayon Primo, and I am a member of the Texas Organizing Project. And while I don't directly have any children in the DISD school system, I am still very concerned about how our Black and brown children are being prepared to succeed in this new common economy. Racial equity plays a very important role in this transition. This is why I stand with my fellow top leaders and asking you guys to prioritize racial equity like you do with the police department by making the deputy chief REO a chief level position, just as the chief police officer is a cabinet level position in this district. With that being said, top members are requesting that within 30 days of hire, the permanent deputy chief REO must develop a comprehensive strategic plan that identifies goals and objectives based on data from the ERS final report. This plan should include key milestones and be developed using the 1, 3, and 5-year timeline. The report points out 75 underserved communities within Dallas ISD. While they cannot be addressed all at the same time, we suggest identifying commonalities across the spectrum and implement solutions that will empower our children that is in your care. Thank you for hearing me today.
Our next speaker is Madeline Allen.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Madeline Allen, and I'm a student at Woodrow Wilson High School. I honestly don't really care if we go back to school or not, but I definitely would prefer it. And at this point, I don't think there is any changing your mind on it. But I do care about extracurriculars, and that is what I'm here to talk about. They're basically what keep me sane throughout the year, and I'm involved in several of them, including swim team, golf team, the show choir at my school, and musical. On top of that, this is my senior year, and I would hate to miss out on all of these things because it is my last year. These things keep me very motivated academically throughout the year because in order for you to participate, you have to keep your grades up. I think that choosing to keep these activities would benefit so many people because in this time, all kids have to do is to sit at home and work on schoolwork or honestly just sit at home, which has not been in favor for many kids with their mental health. I'm not even going to start that conversation, but the point of that is that most kids will benefit from having something to do outside of schoolwork. So I really hope you can make the right decision on choosing to keep extracurriculars this year. Thank you for listening.
Our next speaker is Sheila Walker.
I think it's my turn. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes
Okay.
to speak.
Good evening, Dr. Hinojosa, Board President Justin Henry, and Board Trustees. I'm Sheila Walker, President of NEA Dallas. I reside at 10707 Big Thicket Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75217, and I live in District 4, Carla Garcia's district. I'm speaking to agenda item 6.14. Thanks for your consideration to take possible action to approve remote learning for the 2021 school year. Members of NEA Dallas want to thank the board and leadership team for working tirelessly to make sure that staff and students of Dallas ISD return to school safe. Although we're doing this, we have some concerns for you to consider for safe school return. If staff members are responsible for taking their temperatures before leaving home and report to administrators, how can this be accurate? One may come to work ill and not report it for the fear of being sent home or being docked. I was under the impression that temperatures would be taken each day as staff arrive, and it is my understanding that other employees such as transportation workers or other support staff would help with this process. We also appreciate the announcement that was sent today about the change to DH regulation that would allow children and classroom teachers and campus staff to accompany their parents during the period of district-wide distant learning for everyone. We understand that one must receive permission in writing from the principal, but what happens if the principal doesn't approve it? Finally, we are concerned about support staff having to be on campus and teachers allowed to be at home virtually. And at the last board meeting, it was stated that some support staff members would assist teachers with virtual learning. As the president of NEA Dallas, I'm advocating for all employees to make sure that we return to school safe and healthy. And as quoted by Dr. Seuss, to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. Please don't leave NEA Dallas out when making plans. We value your leadership and we want to work with you and not against you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rena Honing.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rena Honey, President of Alliance AFT.
Thank you for putting safety above everything. With all stakeholders are not happy with 100% virtual instruction for the first 4 weeks of school, it was the right and tough decision to make for safety and respect for human life. Thanks again. As you know, many of our transportation workers are in dire straits. Numerous ones have not received a paycheck since May. Most were unable to collect unemployment, resulting in the inability to pay bills or buy groceries. Some drivers are collecting donations to pay for temporary hotel rooms so drivers aren't sleeping in their cars. The situation is truly heartbreaking. Here's what we're asking for today. Please compose and pass a resolution calling on our state representatives to change the current law which prevents transportation and cafeteria employees from receiving unemployment when school is not in session because of a letter of assurance as required by the district. Second, these workers need financial support. During this pandemic, we're seeking 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, regular pay, not the proposed 6 hours a day. Thirdly, most of the communications for these employees is through email. However, many have had their internet and phones turned off because they can't pay. In cases where the district has not heard back from these employees through email, we urge you to have critical information mailed to their home address. Lastly, many of these employees feel completely disrespected and abandoned by the district. We would appreciate a meeting being scheduled with trustees so they could hear directly from these workers and find a way to move forward and everyone feels heard. In closing, why is the district requiring teachers and campus employees to return to the buildings for instruction on September 17th when distance learning goes until at least October 6th? Perception is there's an assumption by the district that everything's going to be okay with this pandemic on September 17th when there's no information to draw that conclusion from. You've already exercised the brave decision that safety is of the utmost importance, but on September 17th, that goes right out the window. The process for an AWA and ADA accommodation and a leave through the benefits department is a nightmare with the volume of requests submitted. They're doing their very best, but it has totally overwhelmed the system, and most all decisions have been received are denials. Human compassion is needed now more than ever, and it's almost absent in this process. Please revisit the September 17th date for employees to enter the buildings. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Our next speaker is Cleet Simmons.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes
Hello?
to speak.
Okay. 1 second. Thank you for my time. My name is Cleet Sinnott, and I'm an incoming sophomore at Woodrow Wilson High School. I'm involved with many things at my school, including baseball, and it bothers me that was made to not allow extracurricular activities continuing to start on September 8th. I'm asking that extracurricular activities start date align with the UIL calendar, which is September 8th. I do believe it is safer and mentally healthier under the structure of our teachers rather than practicing out in groups with no supervision. The reward of the fall season and memories can only be made while we are in high school. I would like the choice to see through what many students have already started. I believe that those who supervise our activities will do so with our health and safety as priority number one. And as we move through the school year, we could use this approach in the lessons we learned as we begin the phases of re-entry into our in-person school and keeping controls around COVID. As a student of Dallas ISD, I beg you to allow communities and schools to decide what is best for them, while of course, following safety guidelines and protocols. These activities are important to our emotional and mental health, and we feel as a community, not from a central office, should determine what is best. I hope and plead that the superintendent, Dr. Hinojosa, will amend this decision and follow the September 8th start date to allow activities to take place. Thank you for this opportunity to address the board. Bye.
Our next speaker is Joe Allen.
Hello.
You have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Joe Allen. I live in East Dallas, and I have attended Lipscomb Elementary, St. Bernard's, J.L. Long, and this year I will be a freshman at Woodrow Wilson High School. At J.L. Long this past year, we won the city championship in football and basketball. Baseball was cut short by the virus. I not only improved and got better as a player, but I also was motivated to do my best by my principal, coaches, and teachers, while improving my organizational, leadership, and social skills. I'd like to thank Principal Barnett, Coach Nelson, Coach Tip, Coach Mathis, Coach Lightfoot, Coach Rob, and Coach Garcia, and the others for believing in me and helping support me along the way. I'm looking forward to my next chapter at Woodrow, playing sports under Coach Benedetto and his team, allowing them to help me reach my highest potential as a person. In high school, I also plan on singing in the choir and being a part of many other areas of interest, including football, basketball, and baseball. Hearing that fall athletics was delayed and possibly might be shut down this season upsets me, because I know how important these are for me to be my best in school. I understand that Dr. Hinojosa wants to keep us safe. However, the numbers are down in Dallas and the other districts are finding ways to play. I'm asking that you all find a way to give us a choice to play. I will be a better student if I'm able to participate in sports. This summer, our school and coaches were responsible leaders in providing a good plan for our strength and conditioning workouts. Most recently, I've had to work out privately on my own with several of my fellow teammates. I know that the school's workout program is safer since it has more guidance from the coaches. I'm asking that each of you do everything possible to give us a chance to start the fall activities, including football, on time with the UIL schedule. Thank you for listening. I stand with my fellow DISD students and support Jaylene Record from Madison High School in our request to let us play. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tim Allen. Mr. Allen, you have 3 minutes to speak. Our next speaker is Katrina Rasmussen.
Hello, my name is Katrina Rasmussen. I am a proud Dallas ISD educator, and this will be my 4th year teaching in the district and my 12th year in education. Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa and trustees, for accepting input from local health authorities. I appreciate that our district is following the science, even in the face of public opinion that states otherwise. Your actions show that our district values the safety of our students and their families. I am thankful that I was able to begin in-service remotely today. My principal did an amazing job fostering community spirit at my campus. Dr. Hinojosa, you stated in your press conference last week that we must be innovators this year. My campus modeled innovation today. I feel supported and safe, and that has allowed me to fully invest myself in my students. This is a stark contrast to the experience of my friends who teach in other districts. During last week's press conference, Dr. Hinojosa said that other superintendents have reported their faculty are happy to be back on campus. I want to raise some important issues with this statement. Far from being happy among their peers, many teachers are confronted daily with aggressive non-maskers, childcare shortfalls, bitter rhetoric from parents, and unrealistic expectations. Their superintendents may not know how their faculty feel because those faculty members have not been given a voice. I've received messages from teachers in Rockwall, Richardson, and Highland Park who feel demoralized, demotivated, and stuck in a no-win situation. Thank you for giving me the professional courtesy and flexibility to work remotely until it is safe. I hope that other districts will reevaluate their policies for the safety of their students, staff, and communities. As grateful as I am, I would like to draw your attention to the health concerns of our support staff. I value our cafeteria workers, custodial staff, office managers, clerks, librarians, bus drivers, counselors, and nurses. Their work is instrumental in our mission to educate all students for future success. If our numbers are too high for students and faculty, then they are too high for support staff too. Trustees and Dr. Hinojosa, I ask that we honor our staff by giving those who can perform their duties remotely the flexibility to do so. This shows respect for their health and their professional integrity. As Dr. Hinojosa said, this virus doesn't have an expiration date. September 17th is a report to work date that might make sense for some faculty, but would be an undue burden on others. We will all perform better if we can trust our administrators to honor our health and respect our professionalism. I ask that those workers who must report on site be given benefits in accordance with the risk that they are taking. Please consider hazard pay for employees who must remain on site to reflect the added stress and risks to those employees' health. Please honor the loyalty of our support staff by guaranteeing 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Doing so shows that Dallas values all its employees, and it will foster appreciation and respect from those staff members who are so essential to our district, but who are so often overlooked. I chose Dallas ISD over other districts because of our commitment to equity. Please live by those values by promoting equity and value among all your employees.
Our next speaker is Tim Allen. Mr. Allen, you have 3 minutes to speak. Our next speaker is Debbie Kirby.
Thank you for the chance to speak to you tonight. My name is Debbie Kirby. My husband and I have 2 boys who attend Woodrow Wilson High School. We're longtime DISD parents and advocates. I'm very proud of all the students who are making their voices heard, both tonight and at rallies that have taken place over the last couple of days. We understand that decisions about reentry are complicated and must be carefully considered. I was very happy to hear from Dr. Hinojosa earlier in this call that decisions about when to start voluntary extracurricular activities can be based on different factors than those that influence the decisions about bringing everyone back to campus. And I'm calling in tonight to lend my voice to ask that you consider allowing in-person extracurricular activities in Dallas ISD to begin immediately, even if classes are being conducted online only. We know that teachers and coaches who lead extracurriculars are passionate about their work, and many of them have already built plans to keep our kids safe while they practice together in person. We ask that you give them a chance. Specifically, we hope that fall sports workouts can begin right away to avoid forcing Dallas ISD schools out of normal UIL competition, which we understand could happen if workouts don't start by September 8th. We worry that disruptions like that will have ripple effects in our school communities that extend far beyond the football field. Sports and other activities and competitions are often what sets kids apart, gives them important life skills, and inspires them to be their best. Parents and students want to be part of the schools that provide the best opportunities. Please give Dallas ISD students the same opportunities as students in other districts. Thank you for listening.
Our next speaker is Tim Allen. Mr. Allen, you have 3 minutes to speak. This concludes our speakers.
Thank you to all our speakers voicing their concerns and opinions. We're going to move on to Section 5, which is the approval of minutes. Consider and take possible action to approve the minutes submitted for approval. For all trustees participating in video conference, we'll do a roll call in district order as we've done before with our virtual meetings. The following minutes have been submitted for approval. Board of Trustees and Superintendent Workshop, June 25th, 2020. Public hearing, June 25th, 2020. Board meeting, June 25th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion been made by Trustee Flores, second by Trustee Marshall. Trustees, are there any corrections? Hearing none. Trustees, go ahead and cast your vote, starting with Trustee Flores and then moving on all the way through District 9.
I vote yes.
You can use the computer.
Oh, we can. Well, we have
only Trustee Solis needs to announce his vote.
So, okay. Trustee Solis, if you'll announce your vote, and then we'll make our vote.
Perfect. Solis votes yes.
Okay, trustees, go ahead and cast your votes.
Trustee Mackey?
I vote yes. I don't have anything popping up on my screen. Oh, there it is.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, trustees. Moving on to 6 consent agenda items. Consider and take possible action to approve consent agenda item 6.01 through 6.88 as amended. Trustees, we have consent agenda item 6.01 through 6.88 as amended. The following agenda items have been pulled for a separate vote: 6.17, 6.54, 6.56, 6.57, 6.64, and 6.79. 6.10 has been pulled from the agenda, and item 6.15 remains on the consent agenda item. Before we vote on this, do Trustee Johnson or Trustee Form, do you want to place any of those ones that were pulled back on the consent agenda item? I think Trustee Foreman said no, so we'll just keep going. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda as amended?
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Trustees, will you please cast your votes, starting with Trustee Solis?
Who made the?
Trustee
Solis
Flores,
votes yes.
Trustee Flores made the motion. Trustee Marshall seconded the motion. Trustee Solis?
Solis votes yes.
Thank you. Trustees, can you please cast your votes?
Trustee Foreman and Trustee Max Johnson. The motion passes 8 voting yes and 1 voting no. Ms. Foreman, were you voting no? Okay. 8 voting yes and 1 voting no.
Before we get to the items pulled for a separate vote, the administration wants to address the pulling of agenda item 6.10. Superintendent also, Chief Leary.
Dr. Leary, if you'll cover that for us, please.
Yes. Thank you, President Henry, Superintendent Hinojosa. Administration pulled 6.10. We will be surveying families in the next week, and we'd like to have the opportunity to review that data and bring this particular item 6.10 back in September after reviewing that data.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Leary.